Hey guys, so this is my deck tech video for the Dredgevine list. It's a pretty standard list. I've been piloting this list for about 2 years with minor changes. Magic Origins just came out, and I don't really like any of the cards from the set, so this is what I'm going to continue to test with. So the typical Dredgevine list wants to pitch as much stuff into the graveyard as I can, dredge it, cast stuff, and get my Vengevines back. Vengevine is the primary win condition here. Mostly everything in my graveyard, or in my deck, deals with my graveyard, so I have some higher cost spells that delve away, some nice removal. Angler usually is a 1-drop, so for anybody that doesn't know that. I use 3 State of Wayfinders because I like to have 3 more enablers that fill my yard up. It usually cycles itself to the land drop. Bloodgas are typically free. Usually I pitch them with a Faithless Looting or a Lost Troll, play land, and get them back for free. The main enablers that make the deck work are Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is probably the best 1-drop that was printed to support this deck that's not a creature. I also have 3 Ghostly Salvage, which let me dig and pick a land or a creature. It's really good for getting what I need. Lawless Troll is probably my favorite regular creature in the deck. It's a zombie, so it meshes really well with Gravecrawler. The regen clause is very good, so I usually try to keep 1 mana up at all times to keep it alive. It's really good against many of the decks, and it's very hard to kill. Path to Exile or Wrath of God or Terminate, I think, are the only really ways you can get rid of it. Gravecrawler really makes the deck work. I run 12 zombies in my deck to recur them, cast it from the graveyard, which is what I want to be doing, and get my Vengevines back. That's my primary line of play. If another card like Gravecrawler is ever printed, this deck will be tier 1, I guarantee it. For removal, I run 3 Abrupt Decay. Pretty standard. I like the non-counterable clause, and I can hit pretty much anything except for the Tassigers, but that's why I run 2 Murderous Cut. And I also run a Singleton Dark Blast, which can dredge back. It's good in the meta where it deals with Lingering Souls tokens, Snapcasters, Eternal Witnesses, any annoying 2/1 creatures, I guess X1 creatures. So I don't think it's good enough to run more than 1. I have occasionally run 2 in the past in my 75, but I don't particularly like it that much, and it does get sided out a lot, but there are a lot of matchups where it's an all-star, so I think it deserves a 1 slot. For my lands, I run 7 fetches, Verdant Catacombs, because black-green are my primary colors, as you guys can tell. I have 2 Bloodstained Mires and 1 Wooded Foothills that let me get my basics out better. For my fetch lands, I run a Stomping Ground, 2 Tombs, and 2 Blood Crypts. I think that's fairly standard for most Jund lists. I run 2 Swamps and a Forest for basics because of Path to Exile and Blood Moon. I like to be able to hit my colors and not get mana screwed. Also, dredging a lot. Sometimes I like having a second Swamp in the list because 1 will occasionally get dredged away before I can fetch for it. And then I have some check lands to negate the mana pain, 2 Copperline Gorges, and 2 Blackleaf Glyphs. I like them because any one of them with a Terminal Tailswing really saves a lot of damage in the course of the game. So fairly standard stuff. I have seen some lists only running 4 Blackleaf Glyphs, but I like having access to some extra green mana, so because as you can tell, most of my 2-drops require a green, so I think having an extra green source is not a bad thing. And I run the Stomping Ground. There's been a lot of speculation on that lately, but I like having access to being able to fetch something. Having red-green really helps open up your colors a little bit, so especially since I have a heavier red-green sideboard than a lot of decks. So the sideboard I've been testing is still a work in progress, but Thoughtseize is a really common black card. I like it against most combo decks. Sometimes it's good for the the Grixis Delve and Grixis Twin decks when you need to get their turn 2 out of the way. Because especially against like the Grixis control decks, they're really an uninteractive deck for the first couple of turns. It's pretty much just they fill their graveyard up and cast their turn 2 Tassier, and most decks have a problem dealing with that, so Thoughtseize is a really good way to do it. I like Ancient Grudge. It has Flashback, which is perfect for this deck. Deals with Affinity, any problematic cards like Grafdigger's Cage, Relic of Progenitus, Wormcoil Engine, even like Blade Splicer tokens that can be a but Golgari Charm is really useful for surviving sweepers from control decks. I really like Golgari Charm against Bogles. Both clauses are relevant here. I can -1 a creature and kill it before the enchantment. I can kill the enchantment before Daybreak Coronet is equipped, and then it's basically a 2-for-1. I also like Golgari Charm against a lot of decks that are, especially like mono white, because they have a lot of Rest in Peace. I also bring it in against Jund when they have Leyline of Sanctity, or red decks when they use Bloodmoon. Rakdos Charm is kind of one of those flex slots that I'm currently using right now. I like it for opposing Grixis decks that really need to use the sideboard. It's also helpful against Splinter Twin and Affinity as well. Spellskite is extremely good in the current meta. I think Spellskite is going to stay no matter what. Really handy against Burn. Saves points of damage a lot. It's a wall for aggro decks, so sometimes that's nice. And then just being able to eat removal spells or redirect an enchantment equip or something like that, I think is really helpful. Tune Out of the Bone, really good for aggro decks and Burn, pretty standard. 2 life for every creature card, so if I can wait to cast it till turn 4, turn 5, I can usually gain 10 to 15 life. Kogan's Command, I'm not like on the big bandwagon hype about this card that a lot of the decks have been running it. I do like it. One interaction I like is that when I go to cast my Blood Gas, if my opponents aren't at the 10 life, I can shock them with this, make them lose 2, bring them down to 10, and then my Blood Gas of Haste, and then I have won a couple games off that. This card really usually isn't a thing. I usually like to either like bring a Loth Troll back to my hand to keep the Gravecaller chain going. Even making them discard is relevant sometimes, but the Destroy Target Artifact is another good thing against Affinity. It's a very good utility card, so that has a 1-of. And then Firespout. A lot of people like to run Damnation in their sideboards as a 1-of. I'm not particularly a fan of that because I don't like 4-drops since I only run 20 lands. So hitting 4 mana can sometimes be a problem, and I don't like dead cards. So I think Pyroclasm is good, but a 3 damage sweeper I think is a dozen times over better. So the argument can be made that Pyroclasm is good for like Elves and Zoo, but I think Firespout deals with all those 3 power creatures. And red-green, I really never have a problem hitting that, so and I really only care about the ground creatures. So as long as I can play red, that's really all that I care about. So that's my version of Dredgevine. Let's go to game 1.